Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Pitter patter. Let's get at her. It is another episode of the Mainly Broncos podcast. And yes, we got him. Jaylon Waddle. We got the big fish. There has been all the speculation of free agency this offseason that the Broncos were going to dip their toes in the state of Florida and come away with a big fish from the state of Florida. Devin Lloyd, Travis Etienne, apparently, not Travis Etienne, but Travis Etienne, getting one of those players. But no, there was another player in the state of Florida who had been circled as far as a person of interest for the Denver Broncos for quite some time. There have been some soft conversations in the last 2 years. And then obviously with the trade deadline, with it being the first time it ever came public that there was interest between the Denver Broncos, Jaylon Waddle, and the Miami Dolphins, the interest circulated once more in this offseason as of 10 days ago. And the Denver Broncos and Miami Dolphins agreed to a trade, sending Jaylon Waddle, a 4th-round pick, to the Denver Broncos for a 1st-round pick of this year, not 2027, and a 3rd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. It's essentially a 4th-round pick swap of 2026 draft compensation, and we have a new weapon in Denver. Jordan,
let's go, boys.
Jordan, Brandon, we'll get to you guys here in just a little bit, but of course, make sure you hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page. There is a join feature. Feel free to hit that join feature. It's a membership. Feel free to subscribe however it is that you feel like. There's a different money option that you guys can feel free to choose. It's $2.99, $6.99, and I believe $12.99. Feel free to choose whatever it is that you feel like. And then obviously there's a Mainly Broncos YouTube channel that you guys can subscribe to. And obviously one thing we actually didn't get a chance to mention too is we have an Instagram, we have a TikTok page. All you have to do is just search Mainly Broncos podcast and you'll be able to find it pretty quick and easy. So first things first, obviously, is how are we doing, gents? Are we doing the waddle dance?
Oh, I mean, that's the only way I know how to walk right now. I know a lot of my Dolphins people here are very upset and are not, very fond of me right now because of maybe some things that I've been saying to them. But I'm just so happy that this finally came to a conclusion and they finally pulled the trigger on it, and they did. I mean, it's really relieving that we finally have a guy that we can rely on, and just changes the dynamic of this whole team now. It's. I don't think relieving is even the word to describe it.
Brandon,
dude, where's the penguin costume, man? You're supposed to show up with the penguin costume. Man, this is. I wanted to give Jordan his 15 seconds of fame here because he's been clamoring for this for quite a long time now. I will say my one takeaway from this is Aqib Talib is now my go-to for Broncos news. That's the one source that I follow. But no, this, I mean, again, it doesn't feel real because it's like, okay, last week sucked. Like we had nothing to talk about. There was nothing happening. It was like, we made it through the entire offseason. You get to the point where free agency begins and just like literally there's nothing happening. We re-signed, I think it was 17 of our 21 own free agents to like tiny veteran minimum deals, guys. It's just like people didn't even necessarily want to bring back. And it's like, what are we going to do? And then I wasn't even expecting anything to happen. And I was just like glancing at the Twitter machine yesterday morning, and I just happened to see, I think it was like Luca Evans. I think I saw Luca Evans tweet first. And I was like, is this real? Is this like a legit thing? And then I went and looked up like Pelissero and like more national reporters, and I was like, holy crap, we got him. He's here. He's coming. He actually passed the physical, so that's official.
That's probably one of the most important.
Which is something I always have to pay attention to now from now on for all trades that ever happen again. But it feels good. It is just a surreal feeling though, because it's like, man, you hear the team say, "We like the room, and we're just like, did you watch the games? Like, do you really think that you don't need help here?" And they knew.
Well, and I would say I think they like the room. The question was just you needed some top shelf talent, which is everything we've been clamoring for. Like you just need some top shelf talent, and that's basically all that we've been kind of clamoring for. Like if you can come away with a wide receiver one, running back one, tight end one, at some point here in the next couple of years, I think you will definitely be cooking with grease. And obviously, probably the most objective way you can come about it is if you can develop your running back one, meaning maybe like a running back out of this class, or even maybe RJ Harvey if he can continue to develop. And then, a tight end, which you can easily get in this class too. You can easily get, a tight end in this class. Jordan, take us through behind the curtain, because I know you and I have learned a few things as far as behind the scenes a little bit. Because I think, and we can enlighten Brandon now a little bit more too about some of the stuff that we may have heard here, because and we weren't kidding on the top when we said that this thing kind of goes back a little bit as far as a couple of years ago. It was soft conversation. It was soft conversation, and that's the best way to say it. It was soft conversation, so that is true. But this does kind of go back as far as 2 years ago, Jordan. So why don't you kind of peel it back a little bit and give us like the timeline of how we got here?
Man, it is I mean, there's a reason why I really wanted him and knowing how things went. But first of all, if you don't know, we do have a little Jaylon Waddle over here helping us out here.
You're the left, the far right corner.
Yeah, far right corner over here. It's no longer the Manly logo. It is Jaylon Waddle, just for right now, just for this episode. Just want to give everybody a heads up there.
Yeah.
This goes back all the way to last year, getting closer to the deadline. And before I say anything, I am not a guy to be just making stuff up.
He doesn't have sources necessarily. It's just
exactly like I'm not trying to pretend to be someone that like if you guys want to take what I say as truth or not, that's all up to you. I'm not trying to be a guy like, oh, I knew this or whatever. I'm just telling you. With that being said, having being fortunate enough to live in Miami and having some people that I know, getting closer to the deadline last year, it was a real possibility of the move happening. And also there are some people close to, Surtain and Waddle that are also here from South Florida and, not agents, but friends of agents and stuff like that. So, there was a lot of mutual connections there between people that I knew. So, it was getting interesting. And then at the deadline, I was talking to Cam last year, like, all we have to do is just send it and they'll accept it. Like the offer was still there and all that. And then, of course, as everyone knew, the deal did not go through. And it was mainly at the time because Payton didn't want to give up the picks. Fast forward to, now the offseason, which shout out to Cam, because after the deadline, I thought there was no chance of us getting Waddle. Cam was the one being optimistic, saying, hey, we can revisit this in the offseason. I actually said we can, but I just don't know if the Dolphins will do it. Just with a lot of other factors being played into it. You don't know what's going to happen in the season, how the Dolphins season played out with the new regime and all that. Fast forward to now, and I would say about a week and a half ago, I had gotten same word from those same people saying that, this might be a thing now. And that's why if people that follow me on Twitter will see that I was throwing a little bit of an outrage on certain days. And I wasn't doing that on purpose or to seek attention. Again, I have no skin in the game. I couldn't care less. But, I was pretty pissed because we had another opportunity to get it done and we just didn't get it done. And then our two franchise players happened. And when you have Surtain and Bo really push the envelope on this, it makes it all sweeter because, the front offense and including Sean Payton could have just kept on saying, no, we like what we have. We can just run it back. We'll make it to the AFC Championship game like how we did last year. You're going to be healthy. Like, they had every right to do that. But when your two franchise guys go in and they say something about it, it means a little bit more.
Yeah, and that we don't have that confirmed from anywhere else, by the way. So we don't know if that's actually like true as far as both of them went there. But that was something we heard, is that it was both PS2 and Bo that were really clamoring. Obviously, we know that Pat Surtain.
Yeah, Pat Surtain is obviously the given one because of his relationship with Waddle and, you know, they're mutual guys that they know. But the way it unfolded behind the scenes stuff, it just taking time, and then obviously me throwing my little, you know, bitch on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. I even got to the point where I told Cam and some of our guys that we have a chat with that I don't see us putting it through. Like, it got to the point where when they shut it down again, I'm like, I just don't know if they want to do it. And I even sent, you know, screenshots over. There was multiple screenshots being sent over.
Private conversation, by the way, is where these being said.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah, we just don't know if it's gonna happen. It's still there or whatever. And I'm just like, bro, I'm just so tired of it. Like, they're just not gonna do it. Look how the offseason has gone. They're just gonna re-sign their own guys, and that's where I am at my most pessimistic. Cam is trying to talk me off the ledge.
Right.
And fast forward to yesterday, and
about 9 o'clock.
Again, heading into yesterday, which is probably the more surprising part of it all. I don't expect to get anything, but I was somewhat in the know of things, and again, I don't expect them to tell me anything, but I had no word of it or even a hint at it, which was the best part. And I would have it no other way, and it just made everything sweeter. And I'm super happy that unfolded. But yeah, it was a range of emotions for me. I brought Cam along on the ride of it. Some of the chats that we had too. It was just crazy.
So talk to me about what exactly happened to cause it to fall through, in the most recent, because it sounds like obviously the conversation started earlier. It was potentially on the table, and then it just didn't happen, and then it sounded like within the past few weeks it was on the table again, and then Sean Payton turned it down.
Yeah.
But then he changes his mind. Is that as simple as it was after Bo and PS2?
So granted,
want this guy, or how much?
I will say that this is again a little bit of some conflicting information. We don't know what's true or not, but what Jordan and I were reading and what we were hearing was it was Sean Payton that was turning it down, but also as far as the offer that was on the table, there was only one. There was a first round on the table. I think that the one part that is a big
recently it was on the table, or you're talking 2 years ago,
even last year at the trade deadline. But I think where it gets a bit conflicting as far as the information is that when you talk to some of the people that probably were more in the know than both Jordan and I, it sounded like the Dolphins' offer was actually pretty ridiculous as far as what they were wanting to, move off of him, which ended up being 2 first-round picks. So it kind of ended up being, again, probably why Jordan felt so pessimistic at the midway point of the trade deadline of, will this thing ever get done? Because, if that is in essence the offer, are we really going to be getting a chance, an opportunity to actually get him? And then lo and behold, we rolled with the idea of a new regime, the John Carson effect of draft day, if you will, rolling with the new GM and calling a new GM and getting a first round pick. And I think that as we're diving into this trade a little bit more, I think the part of it for me, Brandon and Jordan, I think that I'm most excited about is this is entirely 2026 draft capital, right? And I think that's the part I am most impressed with, because everybody talks about the 2027 draft. Everybody talks, about all of that. And, I am very I'm very impressed with the fact that all this deal that transpired was, 2026 draft capital, and then, and then Jaylon Waddle. I mean, I am so impressed with how this thing went down.
Yeah, I think like to me when you look at this from you start at the not necessarily the beginning, but you look at like the trade deadline last year and us hearing about the rumors that are circulating about this trade, and like at that point, thinking about giving up a first round pick to me is like that is I understand why you would kind of balk at that, because it's like, okay, this is more of an unknown. Like we don't know exactly where in the first round I'm going to be picking. Is it going to be a top 15 pick? Is it going to be a top 20 pick? Like what's that going to be? And you don't know at that point in time. But when you're doing that kind of offer and that kind of trade now, overpaid for Waddle. I mean, this is the time where you overpay. Like if you're going to be in a Super Bowl window where you have a quarterback on a rookie deal, if you're going to overpay any time, like this is the time to overpay. And I don't even know if I would believe that, in my opinion, it's an overpay, but I'll get to that. What I was saying is, I think knowing that it's pick 30 and it's like solidified of where you're picking, it's the end of the round. You already have an idea of like, you've looked into the draft class, who's potentially going to be there, and you weigh that against, the unknown commodity in Waddle. This is not necessarily a strong draft class, and I wouldn't say it's a strong draft class at the wide receiver position either. So you're looking at like who would you maybe have in that range? It's like maybe Casey Concepcion and Omar Cooper, maybe, yeah, and that's kind of it. And it's like, okay. And I feel like, well, it's like, okay, would you rather have that? Would you rather have Waddle? And to me, like, it's not even a close discussion. I feel like a lot of the times when I see people say, and I've seen so many people say that, oh, that's a lot to give up for Jaylon Waddle, or that's an overpay, is I think when people see literally the sentence of first round pick, everything goes out the window, because first round pick is this magical, mystical thing that's put on a pedestal, and it's so valuable, and it's like, oh, I can't believe they gave that up. And it's like, first round picks bust 50% of the time, right? Yeah. Like it's insane. Look at literally all you have to do is look at this last season. I'm not saying that, our first round pick from this last year is a bust, right? But Barron has barely played. So like, would you rather have a guy who's going to step in as your wide receiver one and play every single offensive snap that you are in the game, as long as he's healthy, or a guy who is on the other end of the spectrum and someone like Jahdae Barron, who I'm not mad about that pick. I think he's a fantastic depth piece for us. You could even maybe get some more time this year. But to me, it's not even close. Like, you never know what your first round pick is going to be like. And especially when you're looking at who's going to be available around then, like, give me Jaylon Waddle 100 out of 100 times.
Right.
Yep. Again, the pessimistic view of my side when I heard about it the second time, and it just being like kind of shut down again. I'm just like, it's not gonna happen right now. It's just never gonna happen with all this. And then just the way it unfolded was awesome, and it was funny because the day before the trade happened, so Monday, I tweeted out that, so I think someone asked me on Twitter or something like that, and I still said like I'm still confident it's gonna happen, just because like it's just too obvious from the things, and I didn't tweet it out, but like the things I was hearing and just all the connections, like it had to happen, but it just wasn't gonna happen now, in my opinion. And the guy was like, "What makes you so confident?" and whatever. I was just like, I'm just confident it happens. This is gonna take time, unfortunately. That's why I actually tweeted to him. And then another guy said, "Do you have like a hint or anything?" I just didn't respond. And the next day happens, it goes off, and these guys are like, "Oh, look, it happened earlier than expected." I'm just like, I can't believe it. Like,
right.
Just the way it went down, just it is what it is. I mean, the timing, at least for the Broncos right now, is good because, again, they still haven't really signed anybody outside the organization. But
apparently, too, because the report came down that they signed Tyson Anderson. Obviously, that ended up not being true.
Yes. So it just this is what the only move that Broncos fans were wanting and needing the most, and the Broncos finally got it done, and it's couldn't be better.
There's a lot to unpack, obviously, with the trade itself. And granted, I do think that, you know, when people do talk about the overpay, I love that you talked about that. And I think that that's the way that, you know, I believe it was Try Me was trying to phrase it the way of like, it seems like an overpay, but when you think about like the Super Bowl window and with everything that they're trying to achieve, it really isn't that much of an overpay anyway. Because
I don't agree with that statement. I don't know about you guys, but I think it was fair compensation, which I also tweeted out too, that I think at the end of the day, if they do get it done, it'll be fair compensation for both sides. And I think it is. I mean, at the end of the day, that 30th overall pick is what, an early second?
Yeah. Well, that's been the stuff, but I don't mind him coming to that conclusion because again, you still have to like operate in the window of like they're a Super Bowl ready roster, and making a swing like this made all the sense in the world. Plus, too, when you start to realize the trade happening now, I mean, we were trying to process what was the plan for the Denver Broncos in this offseason with what they were doing, right? Like signing the in-house free agents and all these players, you know, in this free agency window and not going and big game hunting, if you will, for some of these players. Well, as it turns out, the reason why that I'm interpreting this, the reason why they were making these financial moves of retaining players that frankly they could have retained around training camp or after the draft is because financially they wanted to make sure that this Waddle trade was going to end up happening and end up getting done. And so in order for that to happen, they had to financially make some of these moves and restructures for that to happen. So as far as a quick thing, because there's two quick notes I wanted to make note as far as the other part of this conversation, and I think it's an indirect take that I don't think many people are correlating. That even if it's an overpay, I will say this: the Broncos were aggressive with the Miami Dolphins to acquire Jaylon Waddle. Now that so much, it also affects them as a team, but also trading a first-round pick also indirectly or directly impacts the New England Patriots now, because now the New England Patriots are basically going to have to be even more aggressive, because if they so badly want A.J. Brown, you are going to have to probably give up no more than 2 first-round picks for A.J. Brown if Jaylon Waddle costs that much, that is quite a hefty price. So at this point, it's either A.J. Brown is staying with the Eagles or he's moving forward with another team, maybe like the Rams, which is very much like, the F them picks mentality, right?
Yeah.
So that's the other part of this too, that's like directly or indirectly related to the New England Patriots, where the Broncos made a move that not only just affects their roster, but also affects a team that they face in the AFC Championship game that they overpaid for Romeo Doubs, and meanwhile we're trading for Jaylon Waddle, which significantly upgrades our team, while the New England Patriots are a little bit worse probably right now as far as a roster goes now that we added Waddle to the mix. The last thing I was going to add to this, you look at the pick 30 history. This kind of goes along the lines of what we were talking about. There's really only one player that is a pure superstar potential, which is what you would hope as far as trading a first-round pick for would entail. And that was TJ Watt back in 2017.
Jeez.
You look at this pick history, and I don't mean to disrespect obviously one of your Miami boys, Jordan. But some of these are solid players, but it's not one where I'm not trading like a first round pick for a player like this or something. But like some of these players, Maxwell Hairston last year with Buffalo, Nate Wiggins with Baltimore, Nolan Smith with the Eagles, George Karlaftis with the Chiefs, Greg Rousseau, Buffalo. Again, not necessarily giving up a first for him, but I mean still. DeAndre Baker, Dolphins, Mike Hughes, the Vikings, And then there's TJ Watt. Demarius Randall in 2015, Jimmy Ward, Alec Ogletree, Muhammad Wilkerson, Javid Best, Kenny Britt, Dustin Keller, Craig Davis, Joseph Adai, Heath Miller. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of players that are not exactly superstars at pick 30. So, I mean, like, in an ideal world, you're trading a first-round pick, for a player that's going to instantly impact your roster. Much of the same likes of how we want to interpret that the Broncos got a first-round pick, right, for Bradley Chubb. They shift it off to the New Orleans Saints for Sean Payton. It's almost like that exact same logic.
Yep.
Like, the other thing to me about the price for this trade is you're getting the contract, and the contract is pretty team friendly when you look at it. Like when it was put together 2 years ago, it was like, near the top of the market, and then just everything ballooned like it always does, and the market was reset multiple times, and now it's like that's an absolute steal of a contract for the kind of player that you're getting in Jaylon Waddle. And I think that has to be factored into it more than I've seen it be factored in. Especially when you look at like the comparison between that and the DJ Moore trade that the Bills pulled off, who, first of all, DJ Moore, I don't think is as good of a receiver as Jaylon Waddle is. He's older, and he also has a fairly significant contract that they also had to take on, and they gave up a second-round pick for him. So, like, yeah, it was a first and a third, but the first is pick 30, right? Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't think it's an overpay. I do agree with the fact that Howie Roseman is licking his chops now at this, because he is going to get his favorite thing in the world, which is more first-round draft picks wherever A.J. Brown ends up. But, yeah, I could be happier with this trade. The other thing I think that just, like, makes people believe it's maybe an overpay is they look at Jaylon Waddle and they think, like, oh, he's not even been that good. The Dolphins were horrible, like, absolutely horrible in every possible way. Tua, if you have to sit there and watch him, I'm sorry. Like, I've only watched a little bit of Jaylon Waddle from last year, and he looks so good, and it doesn't even, like, he doesn't even scratch the surface of what he's able to do, because that offense was abysmal, and Tua was not good. And Tua was the best quarterback that he's played with. He was also catching passes from Skylar Thompson.
Right.
And I think Quinn Ewers, I believe, at one point. So, like,
Yep.
Jaylon Waddle was absolutely in prison in Miami. And even though he now has to pay income tax in Colorado, welcome home. Welcome home, because you're actually going to be able to enjoy playing football again. So, yeah, I think Waddle he's just so good. And I think it's easy to miss that because of how absolutely atrocious the Dolphins have been. And my only remaining question is, why didn't we also just include our second-round pick and get Devon Achane as well?
Well,
just bring them all home. I'm partially kidding, but
that would have been awesome.
I have to give Malik Willis something.
Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for Malik Willis now.
Dude,
but
I feel
who's the biggest loser in free agency? Like, you take the teams.
Malik Willis.
Like, Malik Willis might actually be the biggest loser of the entire free agency cycle.
I mean, he got paid. Good for him, but
as someone who obviously lives in Miami, I see, most of the Dolphins games, because I wouldn't say I'm forced to watch it, but there are, it is on my TV. So I've always seen Jaylon Waddle and how great he is, and again, the way he played last year, even with that offense being, let's just say, inconsistent at best. At best, he was awesome last year, because that offense was truly bad. And like, if you were to watch some of his highlights or just full games, I mean, he was the heart and soul of that offense almost every single time, and he still figured out ways to produce. The fact that now he's a Bronco, and not only is it going to benefit himself, but the people now he makes better because of his presence is also the biggest thing as well. Because as someone who has been critical of number 14 got a lot better with this trade.
Yeah. Not just 14.
I would say that. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you and I are probably on the same wavelength, Brandon, because like I was gonna say, obviously it's the entire room, but 14 got better, 11 specifically got better, because here's a guy who did get exponentially better for all things considered in year 2. There's just a kind of a bit of a glaring need in his game that needs to get better, and that's, you can't body catch everything. You got to start using your hands a little bit more. And I think that with Waddle, he's going to really upgrade that when it comes to Troy Franklin's game, because, Troy Franklin, right, is a speedster. And I think that the element of Jaylon Waddle on this team, is perfect. And I think that you mentioning, Jordan, of the fact that it's going to, basically upgrade and, lift everybody in the room. That's all we've been wanting until whether or not they move on from someone in the room or not. It's going to impact people in that one way or another, with Sutton essentially becoming that wide receiver 2, big slot receiver, everything that we've been clamoring for, essentially wide receiver 2. That's going to impact him. He's not going to end up seeing the double coverage. He's not going to end up seeing, as much, if you will, in terms of that. And Jaylon Waddle, he makes his living in the middle of the field, and he's one of the best zone wide receivers in the entire NFL. That's one of the biggest struggles of all this wide receiver group last year and a couple of years too. And then, so Pat Bryant, it's going to really impact Pat Bryant as well. Marvin Mims, it's going to impact Marvin Mims too. And then, I tie a bow on all of this too, where I am so impressed that the Broncos, and specifically Sean Payton, went away from their typical archetype wide receivers that they're interested in.
Thank God.
They went for a player that is pure explosive and possession, route running, everything that we've been wanting in terms of taking the team to its next level as far as a wide receiver. They did that with adding Jaylon Waddle, and not those 6'2", 6'3", wide receivers. A.J. Brown would have been fine, right? Like A.J. Brown would have been fine adding to this room, but, it would have probably, I guess if you're going to be nitpicking a little bit, it would have been a bit redundant to, I guess, have an A.J. Brown and a Cortland Sutton. But I guess the perfect word to ever say here, Brandon, is it's complimentary. This room now is officially complimentary football for everybody in that room.
That's exactly what I was going to say. This is like the perfect – if you were going to build the perfect wide receiver duo in a lab, this is probably what you would do, because Jaylon Waddle brings a skill set to this wide receiver room, into this offense that just has never had before. I mean –
or they've had
look at like him
10 years ago.
Okay, yeah, I would. That's fair. In recent memory, have never had. Like, you look at, it's not even just like the explosiveness, which he obviously brings. He's obviously like pure speed in every way, shape, and form. But he's also just he's actually such a good route runner as well. Like, he's not just a burner. He's able to really manipulate his routes and like, fake going vertical and cut it off inside, like better than so many other wide receivers. And I feel like that's like an overlooked part of his game, because again, people look at him and they think, well, he's the speed guy. He's going to catch a short pass and take it to the house, which he can definitely do. Or he's going to go on a go ball and he's going to be, social distancing away from the closest defender, which also could happen. But he's just so good as a route runner as well in the middle of the field and like kind of those intermediate areas that I'm excited to see what that's going to look like. But to me, the number one thing I would say, is it's complimentary, because Cortland Sutton, as much as, he is disliked by some in Broncos country and some in this room, I think this is going to, other than Bo, I think Cortland Sutton might be the biggest beneficiary of this acquisition of Jaylon Waddle, just because it allows Court to do what he's actually good at doing, which is be the big body boundary receiver on the outside, who isn't necessarily always going to have to go up against, the number one opposing cornerback. And he doesn't have to be like anything other than a big body possession receiver where he thrives, right? I think that's going to unlock him more as well. And I think the other thing I've seen, and I understand, I guess, this viewpoint is, is Jaylon Waddle wide receiver 1? I think you can make the argument that he is. I think you can also make the argument that he's maybe closer to like a 1 a 1B. He's like not quite on that level of like a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson, and that's fair.
Sure.
But I think when you have it set up in this way where you have Waddle and you have Sutton, they can be that 1A, 1B so perfectly well together that like it doesn't even matter. Like it works so well that even if he's not a wide receiver one, like elite player like a Jamar Chase, even if he's just like a step down from that, he's going to do so much for this offense.
It's very funny as we talked about AJ Brown being on the block, and it's funny knowing the fact that one of the teams we were kind of comparing this last regular season and everything, Jordan, was the Eagles. And you actually look at the Broncos and you look at everything that the way that they're constructed, it's like if you were to make the Broncos and the Eagles, if you will, and them not divas, that's essentially the Denver Broncos. You know, like I'm not saying that Cortland Sutton, you know, is in fact an AJ Brown, but like for what Brandon's talking about stylistically, you know, he's that big physical wide receiver that can win one-on-ones and, you know, with his 50-50 balls and everything, and maybe occasionally finally get an opportunity to have some yak now. And then you have Devontae Smith, right? Essentially, which will complement, you know, AJ Brown. And now you have Jaylon Waddle, who, frankly, I think that, you know, this is the other part of it that I think is going to be very fascinating. And I wonder what's going to make of this, because look, for everybody that makes a great deal about the running game, it needs improvement. Don't get me wrong. The running game still very much needs improvement, but I want to pose this to you guys to not be the least bit surprised if this happens. In the last 2 years, and this is obviously with Sean Payton even at the helm, he's not afraid, knowing the fact of where he's come from with Drew Brees and coming from a bit of an air raid, where it's okay having Drew Brees lead the entire NFL in pass attempts year in and year out. Bo Nix, in the last 2 years, has averaged in the top 5 of passing attempts in the NFL. Guess it just so happens comes from a Mike Leach system, an air raid system, that is now the offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, Davis Webb. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, and this kind of leads into our conversation where I don't think anything happens with the wide receiver room. I don't think there's any new trades that, you know, happen, and frankly, would I be surprised if there was? No, I would not be. But I think that this is going to be an opportunity where they are really going to, pun intended, let Bo Nix be a quarterback and feed a lot of those, you know, those wide receivers of Waddle, especially Sutton, Mims. Ingram's going to feast. They're going to be feasting a lot, to where I would not be the least bit surprised if we have our first 4,000-yard passing year since Peyton Manning, and I would not be the least bit surprised if we have also 40 touchdowns or more from Bo, you know, in 2026. I'm not ruling that out because of who Davis Webb comes from in the air raid, and knowing the fact that he just came from, you know, the Sean Payton tree.
Talking about Davis Webb and kind of tying this to another player, in my opinion, just with how things have gone so far this offseason, the happiest man in the building has to be also Evan Ingram, right? Because Davis Webb is now his play caller. He should be a lot more involved in the passing game with him calling plays. And then when you add Waddle on top of everything, it's going to free him up as well. So maybe we get the Ingram that we've been hoping for from last year, and it comes to fruition this year. Which, if it does, you're kind of adding another playmaker into the offense, because he never really was there last year. It was very up and down, and the whole tight end room was up and down. So if he starts to pick it up a bit, you're kind of adding another player into this offense.
Right. You're muted, Brandon.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, I do think Evan Ingram is going to also be a beneficiary of Jaylon Waddle. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if we still address tight end in the draft. And I think, like, you know,
We
you look
should.
at us not making as much of a move there as you would maybe hope, especially in bringing back, you know, Adam Troutman and et cetera, and keeping that entire room when that's been pretty much our Achilles heel for the past, you know, et cetera amount of years, right? But this is an incredibly deep tight end draft class. There's definitely a lot of guys that can make a difference that you can select that are probably going to be available there at 62. They're going to be available, you know, probably even in the 4th round. And,
Right.
you know, we now have a higher pick in the 4th round. So I think that's going to be somewhere that you see a move still be made. You know, my biggest number one thing here in terms of like where I want to see this offense continue to progress is tight end, because like
Yeah.
we brought back J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins was one of the best running backs in the NFL last year, full stop. I mean, yes, he did not stay healthy, and yes, you have to find some way to account for that. I mean, I know you're hoping RJ Harvey is able to make a step forward here, and you need to still bring in someone else. But tight end, you have to do something to upgrade that room. And like even if Evan Ingram is getting an extra you know, burst of life, if you will, from you know, the way that he's able to be utilized in this offense now, and not having to be like he's being maybe now even like the number 3 or 4 target when you look at how that all shakes out. But I do think you just have to do something to upgrade that tight end spot and help Bo out even more, because if you're going to make him pass that much, which I personally don't even think I want that. Like, I don't think that's a sustainable path to success. I think you need to have more of a running game. And I think that, you know, that's still going to be a focal point. But if you're going to really air it out this much, you got to give him a better tight end than what he has right now. And that's even if Evan Ingram makes a jump.
And I only am just kind of like connecting dots. I'm not saying this is going to be happening. I'm just piecing things together as far as what we've known about Sean Payton, and when we think that there's been a running game that they need to commit to, and granted a lot of that has been the running game itself, you know, they've been pass happy, right? I frankly, the other part, it's funny, the other part that I think is a very large beneficiary of this Jaylon Waddle trade is RJ Harvey in the passing game. Like, RJ Harvey in the passing game is going to probably be featured to the likes of what Alvin Kamara was as the, you know, as the Saints, if you will. I mean, I think if there's an argument to be made, and this is just only me, because granted he does need a lot of work as far as a runner, like a runner between the tackles, you know, and everything. But in the passing game and as a receiver, he turned himself to be a rather elite running back when it came to out of the backfield target, because as the season was progressing, you were starting to kind of see the comfortability of him and Bo, the relationship really starting to kind of take off at the very end of the season. So I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they really take things off with him specifically as a receiver. Obviously, as I said, he needs to get better within the tackles as a pure runner, but as a receiver, you're going to see him really excel. So the two victors, obviously, that's not all just the wide receiver room. Evan Ingram and RJ Harvey are the two victors of that target weapon room.
I agree.
Yeah, and then the other thing too that I think I've seen discussed, and I want to kind of comment on, and I'm curious, Jordan, to hear your opinion on this as well.
You muted yourself.
Why it just randomly is. Is you look at the rest of that wide receiver room, and first of all, like how this one single move can take a room that is just filled with, I would say, question marks to one of the deepest and best wide receiver rooms in the NFL is really something. But you look at all of the talk online now of like, you know, what's going to happen with Marvin Mims, what's going to happen with Troy Franklin, is one of these guys going to maybe get dealt. I understand that line of thinking, but to me, the reason you set it up this way is to keep those guys. And why I say that is now you have depth, right? You are able to bring someone in that just shifts the rest of the room down one peg. And that's exactly what we needed, because Cortland Sutton, is he a perfect wide receiver in 1? No, but is he a great wide receiver, maybe 1B or 2? Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Same thing with is Troy Franklin, with that massive step that he took in his sophomore campaign, is he the best wide receiver 2? Probably not. Is he a fantastic wide receiver 3? Yes. So you move everyone down 1, you build that just incredibly valuable depth that you should not trade. Like, we need to absolutely keep that around at all costs. And Marvin Mims, you're able to continue to use him in the role that he seems to be doing best at, which is as a return man. But you don't have to force him into this offense to kind of get that juice that you were lacking. You're able to get that from Waddle. So I think, to me, we also need to be keeping the depth that we have now created with this Waddle trade. Do not trade away one of these guys just because it's like, oh, well, who's expendable because they brought in Jaylon Waddle? No one.
Agree.
I also agree with that. I don't think they should trade anyone in the room. I think if I were to guess, if a trade were to happen, who would it be? It'd probably be Troy Franklin. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Just because of some factors and how he would fit going forward. But I just don't think they'll do it. I think right now they truly now like the room and how they all complement each other. I will say, when we're in 11 personnel, I hope the starting 3 wide receivers are Waddle, Sutton, and then depending on matchups, it'll either be Mims or it would be Troy. I don't know who they're going to put in that slot. I mean, you can also put Waddle in the slot, but I'm just saying in terms of those 3 wide receiver sets, you already know it's for sure Sutton and Waddle. I'll be very intrigued to see if it's going to be Troy as that third or if it's Mims, because listen, whenever we need Mims to come up clutch, he does, and it's always towards the end of the
season
and the playoff time. So,
yeah. I will say this, and this goes to what we saw in the Super Bowl with what we saw from, said wide receivers development, and from what we've seen overall with these kind of wide receivers, that really gets me excited to tie a knot on Jaylon Waddle more. What is one thing we have seen people talk about when it comes to the Sean Payton offense and, creative when it comes to this offense is motion. One of the things that has been so creative with some of these big time playmaking wide receivers are the Justin Jeffersons, the Jamar Chases, the JSNs, right? Even, Cooper Kupp at times when he had been, with the Rams in his prime. And then obviously what they're doing with Puka Nacua with the Rams. They are using motion to set up routes for their number 1 wide receiver. And I think that you are going to be seeing a lot of that. You are going to be seeing a lot of that with Jaylon Waddle. I'm not saying he's going to end up having a JSN type of impact, but I'm saying that the way that I think they will utilize him from an overall motion standpoint and out of the backfield, behind the line of scrimmage, etc. I am very excited to see what they can possibly do with all that motion. And 2, it doesn't just have to be Jaylon Waddle. I think that if they are content with wanting to make sure this room stays, you can also get super creative, with a Marvin Mims on the field, a Jaylon Waddle on the field, So, you can get super creative with some of these ways now on offense.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this just allows the offense to, again, just have an extra layer to it that it has not had in recent memory, and definitely not since the revival of this franchise with the arrival of Sean Payton and Bo Nix, which is a player that can actually dictate coverage, a player that the opposing defense has to circle on their game plan every single week and figure out what are we going to do to stop this guy. And this is, dare I say, I'm not saying that they're exactly the same players, but you saw them play next to each other for a number of years. I have to imagine what we're now doing to the AFC West is what Tyreek Hill did to the AFC West when he was a Chief. I'm not saying they're quite on the same level, but you have a guy that is on that at least same plane where you have to find a way to account for him, and you have to know where he is on the field at all times because he can house it at any time.
Yeah. So tying a knot on all of this, we'll get into what we think as far as the end of it. As far as are the Broncos done in terms of free agency, I want to just tie a knot on this last Waddle discussion for the impact that he's going to have, obviously not just with the Broncos, but I love that you talked about it from the AFC West side of things, Brandon, and you weren't necessarily, you're not in our PO Slack chat. But one question that I posed that Jordan was, sleeping through the day and he didn't get a chance to see the question, was when you look specifically at skill players of the AFC West, obviously Brock Bowers is number one. There's no debate. But you look at the top 3 or even the top 5, Jaylon Waddle's in the top 5. And I would not be the least bit surprised in ranking them where I have Waddle in the top 3 as far as skill players when it comes to the AFC West now.
Well, I mean, I think we can agree Waddle's the best wide receiver in the division. Who's a better receiver than him in the division?
So let's go through it. Xavier Worthy.
God, no.
Talent is, you can see talent, but it's not really
different stratosphere.
Yeah, different stratosphere. Rashee Rice. I mean,
Rice, as much as I love Rashee Rice, as much as I love him, he did have that injury. I gotta see another full year of him and stuff like that. I really think he's good. But as right now, I'm taking Waddle over him.
Ladd McConkey, that might be the only one.
Nah.
I mean, he's really, really good. But I mean, like, as far as wide receivers, like you're looking at him. I mean, Ladd's above Cortland. I mean, but yeah, I mean, Brandon, you're kind of looking through it.
That's an interesting question.
Brandon likes Trey Tucker over Jaylon Waddle.
Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey had a little bit of a sophomore slump.
Yes, he did.
But he's still good. But like, I don't know if I would put him in the same conversation, to be honest, as Jaylon Waddle.
Exactly. Like
to me, good. the closest is Rice, but close doesn't mean it's
right.
It's, close is subjective, right? Like, he's the closest, but he's still in a different hemisphere. Let's just put it that way. Like, this move, like, to kind of put an extra cherry on top of what I was saying earlier, like, this is the kind of move that in one fell swoop you go from having probably the worst receiver room in the division, which is kind of saying a lot because the Chiefs do not have a good receiver room, to the best. And like, I mean,
the Chargers don't either.
The reason I say the worst is because I consider Brock Bowers to be a receiver. Otherwise, it would pretty easily be the Raiders. But worst to best in terms of weapons, offensive weapons in the receiver room in the division in a single move, like pretty much full stop for me. And again, that's just because I say Brock Bowers to me as a receiver. But
yeah, because again, like, so let's kind of go through it. Brock Bowers is 1, right? You go to 2, because like Maddie, who's not on with us, would put Genty in the top 3, and it's like, well, if I'm going to put Genty in the top 3, that to me would signify that he's a top 5-7 running back in the NFL, and that's not where he's at right now. He was certainly drafted to be that, but I don't think he's even in the top 5 as far as skill players. I do think Ladd McConkey probably, if you're doing a ranking of the top 5, would probably be in that with Rashee Rice. But the top 2 might actually be Brock Bowers and Jaylon Waddle as far as those 2
think
top.
It is.
Yeah.
And like, Rashee Rice is good. Like, don't get me wrong. He hasn't had a single 1,000-yard season as a receiver yet so far. Like, right. I feel like that's easy to forget. Rice he's been good, but he's not been great. And, to me, I think you're right. I think it goes Bowers, Waddle, Rice, / Ladd. I think you can maybe put Ladd there as well. But yeah, it's pretty remarkable turnaround. One other thing I do want to talk about as well is I don't know about you guys, but I feel like there's been kind of like a little bit of a stigma around Waddle as being injury prone and just like a guy with an injury problem. He's missed 5 games or 6 games in 5 years. Like
I don't know.
So
where
he gets banged up. I will say this: he gets banged up. You see him go in the blue medical tent a lot. It's kind of concerning, but he gets back out there and he continues to play. Like he's tough.
it's almost like Demaryius Thomas. I don't want to. He gets banged up. He's right back out there and he's playing.
So I can comment to this because, and I think even if we were to rewind back in our Slack chat, Cam, when it first got mentioned about Waddle, I had said that that Waddle does get hurt a lot, and of course, one of our guys looks up his games. He goes, he's only missed 5 games in his career, and I tried to explain that I understand he's only missed 5 games, but as someone who actually watches Dolphins games, unfortunately, he's always in the blue medical tent. Now, with saying that, the Dolphins medical team, as with other history going on, aka with their quarterback, let's just say they're not the best. And also, compare it to Denver, where we were the most injured team in the league for years. And Sean Payne came over and completely revamped the training staff.
Didn't we get like a B+ or something due to the grade?
I mean, just revamping the training staff, the health staff, the recovery, like everything going into it. Like, I am not worried about that now at all with Waddle. And again, he is one tough SOB. But again, I am not worried about that right now with Waddle and him going to Denver.
Yeah, I it's just funny. I saw that, Brandon, as far as people clamoring for it. Not clamoring, but like mentioning that as far as like.
I do understand it though. I do.
Don't get me wrong. He goes to the blue medical tent. Like I wanted to make sure I highlighted that because that is a fact. Like, I've seen those Dolphins games too, Jordan. But he doesn't miss time. Much time. He'll go off the field for a few plays. But he's also like when you have that level of speed, the hits are going to be harder too. Like you're running into something, like you're already in a car crash, but it's just getting worse.
Well, and they're different stylistic wide receivers, but it's almost the stuff that would have been happening with Demaryius Thomas in his prime years with Denver, right? Like everybody talks about, oh, he was banged up or he was injured, bro. Like he would go to the medical tent, but he would come right back out on the field and play his butt off, and it's one of the reasons why he is my favorite wide receiver in Broncos history. Is because he would have some of these banged up moments, but he would come right back out there and have a 7-catch, 100-yard game while having his knee banged up in the middle of a game, and so I just think it's one of those things like it just, he might be banged up, but he's still contributing on the field one way or another. And obviously the last important note that everybody probably wants to make sure of is, and this is very important for Jordan, little Jordan Humphrey will not be wearing 17. It was confirmed today that little Jordan Humphrey gave up 17, which probably means he's going to be going back to 84 that he wore the year in 2024 or whatever. But 17 will be owned and of the property of Waddle and probably in my jersey collection here at some point. And the decision will be whether it'll be a navy blue, whether it'll be a white, or whether it'll be an orange. And hopefully it'll end up being a Nike Vapor Fuse jersey, since those are the best kind of jersey to get when it comes to anything like that. But that's probably like the most important information, right, that everybody likes to I'm
thinking about it. I have a throwback bow. I got the navy blue or tan, so my Waddle one has to be either white or orange.
I was gonna technically Landon March Madness just started, and so like they shipped him back off to help out with Utah over in the March Madness tournament. So 84 is available. I'm kidding. One obviously order of business is obviously the other question that needs to be said. Are the Broncos done? I don't think they're done, like done. But I will say, knowing the fact that this was their plan financially of signing everyone, and then basically trading for Jaylon Waddle, right, which ended up being that plan. I really am curious to see what stops here. Like, do they go out and get a Cam Jordan? Do they go out and get a David Njoku? Some of these other vets, or do they actually throw a dart? I wouldn't be the least bit surprised by this. Do they actually go and throw a dart at Green Bay and go get Luke Musgrave, or take Cole Kmet off their hands down there in Chicago? I just wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the Broncos are dabbling a little bit in, if they're being this aggressive and stuff to kind of maybe still look at that tight end room and everything.
If Kamara cost a 7th round pick, like usually those guys usually cost, do you do it?
Easily, to me. Like a 7th round pick, come on. What is that my preferred choice? Because that's a little bit of a different conversation. There's some guys in this draft class I think I would maybe rather have that are like young, cost controlled. But if it's a 7th round pick, I'll take it. I'm still firmly in the HN for a second because he's in a contract year. I mean,
to be fair, to be fair,
I would take that. I do not think it's going to happen. Let me be clear. I don't think it's realistic, but I would do it.
I will say this. It's not going to happen. But it came out today from Adam Schefter. The Dolphins said HN is not available, but there is one team out there. There is one team out there that I could probably confidently say that they will know whether or not Devon HN is available or not available, and it is the Denver Broncos, knowing the fact they just agreed to a deal with Waddle. So they would know whether or not he's available or not available.
Hey, man, it just further contributes to March for Arch.
Unfortunately, with the Devon HN situation, I don't think he would cost a 2nd round pick. Because
you think he costs more than a 2nd round pick?
Yes, I hit.
Yes, because
the reason I said second is he's in a contract here.
That's a very good point. Very good point. But with that being said, if he is on the Broncos, he is instantly and by far our most dynamic player.
Even more than Waddle.
Yeah, and it's that close.
Yeah.
Devon HN's special, man.
I'm aware that it's a pipe dream, but man, I'm dreaming. I'm dreaming.
I just think it's so funny because Brandon, you and I talked about his draft profile when he came out, and you and I really liked him. Our question was just like, where is he stylistically going to be at? When it comes to the, this NFL landscape, and sure enough, he ends up being this just weapon. That's it. He's just this weapon that they use as both a running back and a wide receiver.
Yeah, dude is freaky good, man. I think the biggest problem we had with him was he was small. He's not a big dude, but you know, it doesn't.
If he only costs a second,
You won't, but yeah,
in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
All right, let me pose this to you. You send him a second, and you send them a young wide receiver on a cost-controlled deal in Troy Franklin.
Brandon, I'm there with you.
I know I just said don't trade your depth pieces, but I'm saying right now for Devon HN, I would do it because they have no weapons. They're number one. Let me just read off to you the Dolphins wide receiver room.
Jaylon Tolbert.
It is
Tutu Atwell.
Tutu Atwell is their wide receiver one. Jaylon Tolbert, Taj Washington, and Terrace Marshall Jr., who I didn't even know was still in the NFL. Theo Weiss Jr. and AJ Henning. And Blake Washington.
Troy Franklin might be the wide receiver one on that team.
Troy Franklin will be the wide receiver one. I'm telling you. So 2nd round pick and Troy Franklin still on a rookie contract? Okay.
Maybe in Marvin Mims.
I know
too.
it will not happen, but I want it to happen.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I would do it in a heartbeat. And then I would pay him his contract that he well deservedly earned.
Easily.
Oh,
Moving on
man.
to slightly more realistic standards, I probably would be gearing up for a Mike Washington appearance in Denver. But
That would be
yes, I'm sorry.
Missouri.
Theo Weiss is the wide receiver one. I
I
misspoke.
was gonna say that's Missouri fan Landon talking. Theo Weiss, wide receiver 1. He was the wide receiver 2 to Luther Burden from Missouri. That's By the way, speaking of Missouri, Kevin Coleman is nice. Like, he's really nice as far as Missouri. Okay, so back to the topics at hand, if you will. Are they done? And if they are not done, let's kind of go through. I did spitball some names here about maybe trade targets, but I don't think they're done. I mean, I would say for the most part, the bulk of like large, big moves of a Jaylon Waddle, they're done. Like, but as far as like getting some of these guys like David Njoku, Cam Jordan, even though it may be name recognition, I wouldn't say it's like a big move, like a Calais Campbell. I wouldn't say it's a big move, right? So do you guys think they're done?
For me, I don't think I think they're done with trades. I don't think they're done with, well, they never even started with signings. I do think they signed Cam Jordan. I think there's too much smoke around that for it not to come into fruition. So I do expect Cam Jordan to be a Broncos sooner rather than later. The David Njoku thing now is just a pipe dream for me. I don't think it's going to happen, even though it should.
He did visit Baltimore, but did not sign.
Yeah, which is encouraging. But I just don't see that happening. But I do think Cam Jordan happens. Do I think a Kamara trade happens? I don't think so.
I don't even want Kamara. As crazy as that sounds, I don't want him.
Yeah, I would take Kamara. I mean, he can learn, or not he, RJ Harvey can learn from Kamara, and that I think that would pay dividends for Harvey and that running back room right now. If it had Dobbins, Harvey, and Kamara, I mean, if you're down a guy, you now have 2 reliable running backs, which again, I don't think that happens. I think right now our
let me actually phrase it this way, because the draft still has to happen. If they don't feel comfortable with some of these running backs in the draft, which is possible, like there's some good running backs, but it's not necessarily a relatively deep running back class. If they don't like some of these running backs and they haven't taken one, and it's after the draft, okay, I could probably get on board with a Kamara trade at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be cheap. I don't think he's going to cost a lot.
Brandon, you're puzzled.
I'm just trying to figure out like who else is available that we could maybe go after.
Brees Hall.
Well, technically, Jaylon Waddle wasn't in air quotes available.
Well, not in a trade, because you already know who my trade dream is.
Logic.
I like Kamara. He's definitely not at the top of my list, but like if you're telling me a 7th round pick gets it done, sure. But I'm looking at guys like some older players that fit somewhat of a position of need that we could bring in that probably wouldn't be horribly expensive. And I'm thinking like a DJ Reader type, or like I think Bobby Wagner is still available, and he's like 34, I think. Yeah. Something like that. That's going to be probably less than 35. He's 35. Probably less than $5 million a year, but it's going to be like a depth signing that's going to be cheaper. Nothing else splashy is happening. I don't think they're done.
I actually don't think Landon's too far off on that, because if they are reuniting some of the Bama people, Brian Robinson, if I'm not mistaken, was on that team with Surtain and Waddle.
Is he available?
He's a free agent.
Yeah, he's a free agent.
He's a free agent still? Interesting. Okay. He's 26. That wouldn't be terrible.
He's not going to cost a lot either. He might be you can get him on a 1-year deal for 2.5 maybe?
Mm-hmm. Essentially the same deals that you've been going after.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, as far as trades, like if they wanted to go out and, do trades, maybe they pull another fast one and they do a defensive lineman trade, much like what they did with the shrewd trade of John Franklin Myers. Like maybe they do that. And some of the 2027, Brian Breezy with the Saints.
If it's going to be a trade, let me bring this up. What's more realistic? And I want to hear Brandon's thoughts on this. Is it the A-Chain one, or would it be Brees Hall? Just because there's a relationship there with the GM, him being from Denver.
Or Kamara, obviously.
Yeah, but, there's that relationship factor there with the Jets. What's his name? Darren. Yeah.
Darren Boogie.
Yeah, him. It was reported that they did franchise tag him because of Denver. The Jets obviously need a lot of things, and maybe a wide receiver. Maybe like a Troy Franklin as well. So. What's more realistic?
Well, the one thing I will say is Brees Hall's tag was not exclusive, so he actually could be signed elsewhere, but the Jets would have to match it.
We would have to owe, I believe,
we would have to pay. What's that?
Is it 2 first-round picks?
I don't think it's 2 first-round picks. I think
it's at least a first.
Yeah, actually, you're right. It is 2 first-round picks. That's crazy. Yeah, that's not even.
Never mind.
In the, I thought it was 2 seconds. Yeah, that's not realistic. Honestly, of the 3, of the 2, obviously Kamara is the most realistic. I do think Devon Achane is, again, it's not happening, but I do think it is somewhat realistic from the sense that the Dolphins are at a fire sale. Like, they just want to rip the Band-Aid off. They've admitted that they're a horrible franchise that right now, like, they're not really going anywhere for several years. They're in the running for the number 1 overall pick. The march for Arch is on. And I do think that as much as it would absolutely suck for Malik Willis, like, it would kind of be in their best interest because, yeah, right now, I guess you could keep Devon Achane. Malik Willis could win you 6 games and you're out of the Arch Manning competition. Let's say for some reason Malik Willis, doesn't build off of that showing that he gave us in Green Bay and he falls completely flat on his face and they get a first-round pick, or they get the number 1 overall pick in the first round, let's say next year. They get Arch Manning, and then he comes in and he has no one to throw it to, but he does have Devon Achane. Okay, that's pretty good. But then, like, by the time that you build up the rest of the roster around him to get him some more weapons, to get him a better offensive line, to get him a defense that exists, that isn't Swiss cheese, like, you're already out of the Devon Achane prime at that point, right? Like, that's going to take multiple years, and you're going to also have to pay Achane after this year. So while I'm still admitting that it is probably not happening, that $175 million dead cap, while I'm still saying it's probably not happening, I do think I can see the path where it makes sense, but I also don't think it will happen.
Yeah. So here's the thing: if they do trade,
I will say I do think it is at least somewhat realistic. Definitely more realistic than Brees Hall.
If you talk about positions, and the position groups that they want to target, tight end, whatever, what do you think is the most logical position that they target via trade? I'm thinking tight end.
I don't think they trade for anyone at this point. Honestly, I don't think there's any other trades on the table here. But
like at one point it was Dawson Knox, and then Dawson Knox surprisingly got extended by Buffalo. But there's Cole Kmet out there. Luke Musgrave has been my dart, mine and Sayer Bettinger's dart, if you will, for the last 2 years now.
Yeah, I'd say tight end.
I'm going to say defensive line.
Okay, so who would you target? Because I'm looking at
I mean,
I'm looking at the 2027 free agents right now. Who would you target?
I mean, the reason I say defensive
Jalen
line,
Carter.
Jalen Carter.
I'm joking.
I'm gonna go with no on that.
Hey, you were dreaming about A-Chan. I might as well just throw out Jalen Carter. Just
How about Zach Sealer of the Dolphins?
Zach Sealer. Fun fact: Zach Sealer is currently the highest cap hit player currently on the team, and he's making $11 million against the cap next year. Maybe someone like Malik Collins, someone that's like a little bit older, that is potentially available, is going to be a free agent next year. But like, I'm just thinking there's enough of that's kind of like the market where you find that the deals that happen, like a John Franklin Myers for a sixth, like you see those happen. I would say with somewhat regularity. And I just think that you need a body there. So I would say defensive line would be my guess, but I mean, it could be like a Deron Payne, someone like that, probably a bit older, probably someone a bit older than him. Maybe like Harrison Phillips, something like that. Keanu Benton. How old is he?
Benton's 25, almost 26.
Okay. Maybe like a Solomon Thomas. So someone in that kind of range of 31, not horribly expensive, but just to kind of shore that up a little bit, have another veteran in that room. You're probably still going to maybe draft a player on the line as well, but just someone else so we're not putting it all on Uwazurike and Savion Jones.
Yeah, it's a hard thing because I mean, like, defense line also too is like we're saying, it's not a great class. Like usually when people always will say it's a great draft class, they're referring to it being relatively deep on about 4 or 5 different positions, right? And in this class, you're talking running backs, okay, but tight end. I actually like the wide receiver class, but still, you go back to the Waddle stuff. The impact you're going to get from a rookie wide receiver in this room won't be as impactful for what Jaylon Waddle is going to end up giving you. So it still makes a ton of sense to actually go up 30. So I like the wide receiver class. I think that's deep. Tight end class is deep. Linebacker class is deep. But that's not like well more than 5 on your hand in terms of a relatively good draft class overall. So, I mean, I wouldn't, and the other part of it too is it seems like, right, that's been the report, teams are prioritizing 2027 as far as draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I mean, I am interested to see, speaking of Savion Jones, like how he kind of continues to.
Uwazurike is a free agent, by the way.
Because Uwazurike is going to be a free agent. But I just think you gotta add something on that defensive line.
I did not realize Uwazurike is a free agent after this, after 2027. Or wait, after 2026.
Re-signed him yet?
We might. That would probably give us an indication as far as what we feel is, who would be the true JFM replacement. I think if you're probably going off a pecking order, I probably would say Uwazurike and then Savion Jones. That's probably what I would go off of a pecking order.
We'll see.
You're quiet.
They really
Jordan.
like Uwazurike, apparently.
Yeah, I trust the depth that we have though on the defensive line, especially with maybe a Savion Jones stepping up and making an impact. I don't know if they'll really would trade for one. I just think the only move they'll do in that room is signing a Cam Jordan, and that's it, and then maybe drafting one.
It's what is his measurables? I
do think Uwazurike is probably more of a nose tackle than a 3 technique. He's just like big. He's like 320 pounds.
That was a name I didn't expect to be on the free agent market, and that's Morrow or Jomo with Philly.
Yeah, from Philly.
So maybe if you're, you do a little bit of a trade. So I don't know. I'm definitely interested in the trade market. Defensive line probably would be a little bit low as far as trade. I think it's curious though. Free agents, I think it's easy to kind of say who they might be interested in, but also too, would the other side of the coin here. I'm at the point now, like we said, like given the fact we now know what their plan was, which was Waddle. If this was their entire move for what they did now going up to the draft, I'm actually okay with that. I'm good. Like knowing the fact that this was their plan, I'm fine now going into the draft and really building out that roster with the defensive line, linebacking core, that running back room. I'm okay. Like I'm actually okay if they actually decided not to sign any more players.
I just wonder what their.
I think that's the most likely outcome. I mean, I
wonder what their approach is now in the draft.
I don't, and I just don't know.
See who falls to them. I mean, I don't know if he's going to necessarily fall this far, but when we're talking about the defensive line with like Caleb Banks with that foot injury could slide down further than you would maybe expect. There's some linebackers that could kind of get there. If Jadarian falls down to 62, I would first of all be pretty shocked, but I would also be incredibly excited. Jadarian Price from Notre Dame.
Rank your favorites.
There's going to be someone that's going to be there that you probably wouldn't expect.
Rank your favorites. If you were to rank your favorites, when you look at when you look at as far as positions, right? You go running back, like as far as like the priority, right? Like Jordan and Brandon, running back, linebacker, tight end, and you look at that second round. What's the ideal position you would love to go after?
I mean, to me, it entirely depends on who's there. Because, like, again, if someone falls, like a
cop-out answer, safe answer.
Oh, look, I have an answer, but like if someone falls to me, like I'm gonna go after someone like a Price or a Banks or something like that. But in terms of the rest of who's going to be available, I would probably say tight end, just because there's enough of that you could it could be the situation where they kind of slide a little bit because it's so deep that teams feel like they can wait, and you see some pretty decent options available there, like a Max Clare or something like that.
Yeah, Oscar Delp.
Or probably I would say tight end or linebacker to me would be kind of the top few. I mean, like there's absolutely no way that Jacob Rodriguez falls that far, knock on wood. But like if that somehow happened, I would be absolutely stoked.
If he was already getting first round buzz, there's no way he's going to be there.
Yeah, he's not falling that far, but I'm just trying to kind of paint a picture of you never know what's going to happen, and there's definitely some guys that you never that could get that far. Like Trotter from Missouri is kind of another one that has been not as receiving as much buzz, I think, as someone like Rodriguez. So
Jay Galday's another one.
Yeah, I would say probably tight end or linebacker personally.
Okay. Jordan?
I would say someone like linebacker or tight end as well. I'm mainly looking at like an Anthony Hill from Texas in terms of linebacker.
You think he'll be there?
I mean, I think he will. Gets out of the first round, but
out of the first round.
But even then, I don't know if it's the second round. I think he goes relatively early in the second round.
Really?
Like if he gets out of I think he goes back into the first round. But if he gets out of the first round, he's going to be one of the top
Have I seen any
5 to 10 picks probably in the second round, in just my opinion.
I don't think I've seen any mock drafts of him being in the first round.
I haven't seen a mock draft in the first round yet, but there's always the linebackers that kind of shoot up more than you would expect.
For sure.
So who do you think we have the more realistic chance of getting, Anthony Hill or Eli Stowers?
Eli Stowers.
Eli Stowers.
Wow. I'd be very happy with that then.
I mean, I would love that. I also don't think he's going to be there, but I think Anthony Hill's going to be gone. More likely before.
It's undoubtedly Eli Stowers would be the one.
Yes, I'm a sucker, but I'd get Keontae Scott, and I wouldn't even think about it.
So I want to pose something to you guys, because obviously we are talking in vain of that we don't think there's going to be a trade. Obviously with this wide receiver room, but it also works hand in hand with pick 62. How would you feel if they did a trade where they shipped off a wide receiver, and in the vein of preparing for the future of life after a certain wide receiver, and knowing the fact he may or may not be available in 2026, and they can redshirt him, drafting Chris Bell at 62. You move off of one of your wide receivers, a Marvin Mims, a Troy Franklin, to a certain team, and you actually draft Chris Bell, and essentially Chris Bell is your long-term plan and succession plan for Cortland Sutton.
Well, I do like him as a better option to replace Cortland Sutton than I do the other guy that's already on the roster. I wouldn't mind. I'm always down to drafting good wide receivers.
Because the other thing that's hard for me to ignore, just even with or without the trade of a wide receiver, I like probably the overall value of taking him in that second round with that 62 overall pick. Because you're talking about a player that, had he been healthy, he's in the first round. Like, he's with the Omar Coopers, he's with the, the Casey Concepcion.
But I'm also the same guy that says that next year we should trade 3 first-round picks and get Jeremiah Smith.
So, Ryan Williams.
Yeah.
I'm personally out on that idea. Just because I feel like you just made a big investment in Waddle. You now have finally that position where the wide receiver room is in a place that you can feel comfortable with, and you're in a Super Bowl window. Like, if I'm taking someone at 62, I want it to be someone who makes immediate impact on this team, not at a position where first I'd have to find a suitor to get one of my other guys that I've developed up to this point that has chemistry with Bo and at least knows the offense to some degree, which to me is the number one thing, because Sean Payton's offenses are famously complex. So I just don't foresee someone like Chris Bell, depending on when he comes back from injury, being in a place where he could make a big impact on this team in his rookie year. And I'd rather take an impact player that could do something to potentially contribute to this team hoisting a Lombardi trophy next year. So that's kind of why personally I would be out on Chris Bell. Like, I'd rather take a linebacker that we have a large need for that could step in and be a starter, a tight end that could step in and make an impact right away for me. I would be not in on Chris Bell.
It's definitely not on my number one list as far as the preferred, but it's just one that I'm definitely at least having in the back of my mind, that it's like I'm circling and when you look at what the Broncos have done, when they say we like what we have, and yet they went out and got Marvin Mims the moment that Sean Payton got here. He was one of his first draft picks, if not first draft pick. They go out and draft Pat Bryant. They go out and draft Troy Franklin. They trade for Jaylon Waddle, So it's one where it's like I'm at least not ruling out the possibility that maybe they want to go out and still add a wide receiver. And wide receiver could be the new corner, as far as this team where Sean's just he's looking at it and hey, it's a good wide receiver class. Let's take a dart. Ted Hurst in the 4th round. Let's take a dart. I don't know if he'll be there in the 4th, but let's do a dart throw. Let's draft Ted Hurst. There in the 4th. So I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. So any other final thoughts as far as Waddle?
Just Waddle.
Jordan.
Just Waddle. Whatever you do, just waddle around.
I'm happy, boys. This is going to be fun. This is exactly what I needed to see this offseason.
Yeah.
I was understandably upset going into this entire free agency period up until yesterday morning.
Obviously, you weren't the only one.
That, to me, like this is already like a win. Like I'll take this. I'll take this offseason, even if we do nothing else. This is, you bring back almost all of your free agents that you were going to potentially lose, and you bring in a just elite difference maker, in my opinion, in Jaylon Waddle, and I'm happy. We're good. I don't even care what they do in the draft. I'm going to watch it because there's definitely still some moves to be made. And this team can definitely get even better at some positions that we've talked about today, but I'm already happy with where we end up if nothing else happens.
I was going to say, like, I always enjoy watching the NFL draft and seeing all the new additions that we end up having.
Oh, I'm a psycho. I'm going to watch it. I'm still watching the first round, even though we have no pick.
For sure. But knowing the fact that, we actually made this move and we are in that Super Bowl window, and, it's just one where I could just kind of sit back and enjoy the draft. And on Sunday, I can go take a very nice, easy flight down to Europe, for 2 weeks. So I can
the fact that we don't have to worry about like the Broncos taking like BPA over like a team need, like us having to force us to like a pick. We could just chill out now.
By the way,
we can't take a cornerback at 30 now.
By the way, I'm going to do something really fun this year. I got a chance to interact with a Raiders fan who, of all people, actually lives in Colorado at the Senior Bowl. He works for Fansided. And of all things, he was the first contact I bumped into at the Senior Bowl. And I'm going to do the same. We're going to do the same thing we've done every year, Brandon and Jordan, even though we don't have a first-round pick. We're going to do the same thing we do every year, which is the Wednesday before the draft, we'll do a first-round mock. And I'm going to have him be a part of it. And we'll go through it, and we'll do the pick-by-picks, and we'll do a bit of an analysis of, like, who's going to select who. And I think we have a pretty good idea of who the Raiders will end up selecting. We probably thought they were going to end up having 2 first-round picks, but there's a certain failed physical that happened. And, when it comes to Jaylon Waddle, we passed physicals over here in Denver. So that result in giving away a first-round pick. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think his name is Levi Dombro. He does a bunch of Raider stuff. So we're going to have him on the night before the draft and just be a first-round mock. So it could be a lot of fun. Yeah, so
on
thank
the
you
one
guys.
Condition that he does not take Fernando Mendoza with the first pick. He has to throw a wrench in there immediately.
I cannot guarantee that will happen, Brandon. Thank you guys so much for hopping in the chat. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for the MHRT Network page. Also hit the subscribe button for the Mainly Broncos YouTube page. And again, for the MHRT Network page, there is a join feature. It's essentially a subscription. There are 3 different features. It is $2.99, $6.99, and $12.99. Feel free to choose whichever option is best for you. Also, we do have accounts over there on TikTok and Instagram, where you will see clips from today's show and past shows that are over there on Instagram and TikTok, and of course YouTube Shorts. There as well summer fun content. Some are just clips, as we said, from here. So make sure you again go follow the Mainly Broncos YouTube page, Instagram, of course, TikTok, and of course support the boys. Follow the boys. Follow Brandon at Brandon Miller PO, at Jordan T. Lopez, and myself at Cameron Parker PO. And of course, there, to summarize everything from this episode and who was the biggest victor of them all, well, first things first, we got him.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Let's go Broncos! God bless Bo Nix!
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come